Hey, this is Andrew Brown from ExamPro. In this follow along, we're going to learn how to set up EKS, so that's AWS's Elastic Kubernetes Service, to run a cluster. And the goal is we just want to run anything on it and expose it so we can see the app running in our browser. I'm going to tell you right now, EKS is the hardest and takes the longest to set up. It's not important for the exam for you to pass, but it really does cement knowledge and give you a practical way of using Kubernetes in production use cases. And so, if you do get stuck, don't worry, just watch and just see what the process is to understand the caveats to actually getting a managed service up. And for me, I can do it because I really know AWS inside and out, but like if somebody was new to it, it's super, super painful. But what we'll do is we'll go to the top here and type in EKS. Of course, you'll need an AWS account. And so we'll go over here, and the first thing we are going to do when it goes here is we're going to add a cluster. We'll go and create ourselves a cluster. I'm going to call mine EKS example. All right. And it lets us choose the Kubernetes version. We're going to need a cluster service role. I'm not sure. Selecting, I wonder if it'll just let us make one. I remember on my other account, I already had one, so I must have created one prior. But I guess what we'll need is we'll need that cluster role. And so there's a couple ways we can do it. So here it gives you the instructions to do it, or what we can do is use this CloudFormation template. So I am going to use this CloudFormation template. You'd think they'd have a link just to launch it prior to 2020, et cetera, whatever. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll copy the contents here. Tell you, AWS does not make it easy. And we'll go to CloudFormation. It's almost like they want you to use their managed container services. But we'll go over to CloudFormation. This is an infrastructure as a service tool for setting stuff up. Notice like our Cloud9 environments are over here, so that all got set up here. We'll create a new stack. And we want to provide the template. So template is ready. I just want to, I guess I'll have to save it. So what we'll need to do is open up any kind of editor. So I have VS Code on my local computer. So I'm just going to go grab that. If it will open here, there we go. It's opening off screen here. I'll show it to you in a moment. Okay, so I'm just saving the file over here. You can see I have a bunch of other cool scripts there. We're gonna go save that to our desktop. Okay, I'm gonna go to my desktop here. I'm just not sure what's on my desktop, so that's why I'm just not sharing it very clearly. And I'm just gonna call this application.yaml. Okay, just notice over here it says application.yaml, right? And I'm gonna go ahead and save that. And so now what I'll do is go back to CloudFormation, and I guess we'll just upload the template here on our desktop. There it is. We'll say open. And we'll say next. Cluster or EKS cluster IAM rule. It's so silly that it's like this. I wish it was a managed rule. It looked like they're saying that it was at one point. Just create it. Just make it for me here, AWS. Please acknowledge. Yeah. All these warnings for a role. Prior to 2020, had an entry with the service link role. The policy is no longer required. Okay. Well, anyway, we'll let that create there for a moment. It should not take much time at all because it's a role. Roles should be super, super fast. And we'll just keep hitting refresh till it works. And there, it's created. So if we go to Stack Info, we can see that it's completed as well. We'll go back over here and we'll refresh. And there is our role. So we'll scroll on down. Notice we can encrypt our, encrypt our secrets using KMS. So that is AWS's key management service. So that's a great way to encrypt your secrets. Then we have all these subnets. And I already know that's going to tell us to like pare this down. It's not going to like them all, but what we'll do is we will scroll on past there. We can see, we can choose IPv4, IPv6. I'm gonna leave it IPv4, public, private, we'll leave it public. There's some advanced settings, we're not gonna touch that. Notice that it's using VPN CNI, so Amazon has its own, I guess, plugin, and it's going to automatically install that for us, for that. Then we can choose a particular version for this, so it'll be whatever version there. We'll have core DNS, we choose a version there. We can choose our kube proxy version. We'll go next. This is nice. We can actually get all logging into CloudWatch logs, but I don't care about any of this, so I'm just going to say next. And then here we have our tags, our networking, stuff like that. And I'm expecting it will complain. Okay, we'll hit create. Because usually it doesn't work because it will say, cannot create the cluster because there's not sufficient capacity to support the cluster. So it could be based on AWS not having enough resources, or that's probably what it is. So what I do is I just like take off the last 3 and then I hope that it works. Just double checking there, and we'll go next, next, create. And there we go. Now, here's the part that's crazy. This is going to take at least 30 minutes to spin up. All right. It takes the longest. I have no idea why, but I literally am doing this and then going to be doing other follow alongs while I'm waiting for this to spin up. And so I'm going to stop the video here. I'll be back in a moment, but just go take a break, watch your favorite episode of a show. And also, if you are spinning this up, we probably should talk about cost. So if we go AWS EKS pricing. Right? Because if you don't have a lot of money, you might not want to be doing this. But if you go to, I might already told you this, but it's going to be 10 cents per hour just for the control plane node. So that's going to be the one that controls all of our nodes, and then we spin up other ones there. And EKS can actually run either on EC2, so you can run EC2 instances, so you just spin up those nodes and they're always running, or it can use Fargate. So Fargate is serverless containers, meaning that you only pay for what you use, so you don't pay for servers running all the time, but that means that there will be cold starts. You can even deploy this on Outpost. So Outpost is like a server rack that could be put in a data center and runs AWS-specific stuff. So if you want to deploy there as well, you can do that. But that's all we're talking about for that for now, and I'll see you back here in a bit. All right, so after a really long wait, the longest wait you'll ever have to wait for a cluster, EKS is ready. Just beware, hit that refresh, because sometimes it's ready, it'll just not update, and you have to hit that button once in a while, okay? So if you go here, we have compute. We'll have to create some node groups. We have networking, we have add-ons, authentication, logging. It's a little bit more bare bones. They're not really giving you a whole lot here. We can see our workloads here if we click into them, but you don't get the same kind of controls we saw in Azure Kubernetes Service and Google Cloud Kubernetes Service, like where we could launch things and stuff like that. So really it is CLI driven. Again, EKS is the hardest to set up, but it is pretty powerful, but not from like an easy to use kind of perspective. But we are going to need some nodes. Okay, so I'm going to pull up my instructions off screen here because it is super hard, super hard to set this stuff up. Okay, and so the first thing I think we'll need to open up Cloud Shell. So I'm going to open up Cloud Shell here at the top there. Oh, it goes to a whole new page. You think like the other ones, like they load in place, but nope, not AWS. It launches in a new one. They were the third provider in the first tier providers to get a Cloud Shell, so no surprise there. I guess theirs is a bit clunky. That's fine. And it doesn't have like a code editor built in, but like you don't need it because you got Cloud9, so it's not a big deal. So we'll pull up the Elastic Kubernetes Service again here, just so we have it on this tab over here. And we're going to have to really rely on a tutorial for this. So we'll just say Cloud Shell EKS, because AWS does not have good instructions here. This person here, great instructions. Okay, so I'm going to go here, and what I'll do is I'll just first make a bin directory, waiting for that Cloud Shell environment. It's also the slowest to start. Okay, and the font is like super small, so we'll go here and we'll just go a little extra large. Okay, and we're in better shape, so I'll go ahead and paste those commands in. Good. So it's going to create a bin directory for us. We're going to install kubectl. Okay. We're going to update config. This allows kubectl to talk to our cluster. All right. Hit enter on this one. Sometimes when you paste it in, the last command doesn't get executed. You have to hit enter, so just be careful there. The name here, I believe we called it EKS example. I'm just going to double check. Yeah, it is. Okay. And then we want to install EKS CTL. So EKS CTL is the is AWS's CLI for EKS, and it's a way of making it a lot easier to way of working with EKS. We could even provisioned our cluster this way, but that's not how I did it. Okay, so what we'll do is copy this contents here, paste it on in, hit paste, enter. And we'll go back over here to our instructions and Helm, because we will need Helm, because that is what we will need to install the Ingress controller. So remember when we were doing, or whatever it's called, the controller, yeah. When we were doing the Azure one, we used Helm to install. I went through very quickly, but we used Helm to install it, and so it's going to be the same for AWS. So now that we have it, we need to actually create a node or nodes, and those are managed with node groups. So back in our cluster, we'll go to workloads or configuration, I guess, and we'll go to compute, and we'll add a node group, and we'll say my node group, and then what we'll need is an IAM role. So it's a little bit silly because we have to go to IAM console and make our own now, and we also have to look up how to make one. So we have the IAM cluster node. We looked that up earlier, but if you still have that link open, you go under there, there's the node IAM role. And they don't give you a CloudFormation template for whatever reason, but we can just create it in the CLI. But I'm just looking here. I did it this way. I went through the management console because it was easier. So here we'll click on, or we already have it open up here, and I'm going to create a new role. I'm going to follow these instructions. The thing is, AWS has great documentation, but it's very easy to like glance over the most important information because it's so text heavy, not broken up in a way that's easy. But what we'll do is we will create one for, I think it's for EC2. Yeah, so we'll choose EC2. The reason I changed this interface, I do not like it. Why is it so light and gray? It looks like it's doesn't work. And then this interface is still little, doesn't make any sense, but we need this one, and this one. So we will copy that name, and we need that policy. We'll hit enter. We'll grab that, then clear the filters. It's still selected. See that? That means that there's a policy selected, even though we don't see it. We'll hit enter on that one. We'll select that one. So now we have two. And we'll go back up here, and then it says, you probably want this one. I go, okay, great. And then we select that. So we have our three. We'll go next. Make sure you have the three that are there. And we'll go back, and then it has a nice name for us. Doesn't matter what we name it, but I'm going to stick with the name that they have here. Paste it on in, go to the bottom, create the role, and our role is created. So we can close that tab, go back over here, refresh. Yeah, if you didn't know AWS and you weren't like used to doing this, like for some services, this would be super painful. For me, it wasn't too hard, but I can imagine hard. We don't need a launch template. That's totally fine. Labels, taints, tags, don't care. Abs on links too. Notice it's using the T3 medium, just like what we were using on Cloud9. So that 4 gigabytes is a good option. 20 disk size. I like to do higher, like 30. Well, we'll leave it at 20. We'll leave it at 20 because when we're running it on Cloud9, it's sharing both the control plane and the worker node, like all the data plane. So the idea is that 20 is probably enough for our nodes. I'm going to put 1 minimum, 2 maximum. Desired is 1 and 1 so that we are saving money here. Not like when we were doing it with Google Cloud or Azure in particular. So there are 3 subnets. Those are fine. We'll hit next. This all looks fine. We'll hit create. And now we have to wait for those nodes to spin up. While that is going, let's go find our instructions for Ingress. So what I'm going to do is type in Ingress EKS. Click the first one here. And this is the right one. And so when I first did this, I did not want to read all this. And so I kind of skipped through it. And then I found out I had to do all these steps. So these are some things that we're going to have to do. So there's a bunch of prerequisites. So the idea is that we are going to be using application load balancer. So that's AWS's load balancer. And then we're going to use Ingress in order to get to our app. And they even have a fun example app that we're going to be using. But before we can do that, we're going to have to do a bunch of stuff. The first thing is to install the application load balancer controller. Okay. And so here we will right click. and we'll have to do a bunch of stuff. So the first thing is we'll need to create an IAM policy. So we'll go ahead, and the nice thing is they just have raw data here, so we can just hit copy. We don't have to do a crazy amount of work. We'll go back to our Cloud Shell, paste this on in here. We'll go back to our instructions. So we've downloaded, we just download the file, and so now we'll end up creating it. So this is the same thing as if we went through the IAM policy and did it all manually. So we'll hit paste, hit enter, and now we have the policy created. That's one step. And we installed EKS CTL because we need to install the IAM service. And actually, when I ran this, I forgot to replace the my cluster part here. So I'm going to make sure I don't forget to do that. And I'm going to copy this here. And I'm going to paste. And if you right-click paste, it usually always pops up like that. So we'll say EKS cluster. Make sure you don't spell that wrong. It's a pain to fix. Okay. Or sorry, EKS example. See, I'm already doing it wrong. So 100% make sure that's right because it's such a pain to fix. And then we need our account ID. So on another tab here, if you could drop down, there's the account ID as well. So I'm going to paste that on in there. Okay. And so that should be all good. Notice the namespace is going to be cube system, so it's launching in the systems namespace. You usually don't do that, but for this case you do. And we'll hit paste. And that will create a service account. And it says unable to create IAM account without an IAM OCID provider. So it says EKS CTL utils run this first. So it's just that EKS, we haven't ran EKS CTL, and so we just have to basically kind of authenticate. And it goes here and says, hey, if you want to run this, you have to run approve, okay? Because that was just a dry run. So we do this. Okay, and that worked. And then what we need to do is go back and run this. I'm hitting up, making sure that name is correct, making sure that account ID number is right. Again, it's a big pain to fix. Run that. It's going to go ahead and create us a service account. Waiting for CloudFormation stack. So it's actually spinning up a CloudFormation stack. So I think when we delete our cluster, then we can just like tear all this stuff down, which makes it a lot easier, right? So we are going to wait on that there for a bit. We'll go back to EKS and also see if our nodes are ready. So I don't see our nodes yet. We'll refresh here. Oh, we just had to refresh. There it is. And these I probably show up on EC2. So if we go over to EC2, we should see, there it is. Okay. So that is our EC2 instance running. We do not see the control plane. AWS is managing it. We can't touch it, okay? So we'll go back over here. This one has finished. Our node is ready, so we can deploy stuff to it, but we're still installing this thing here. So we'll go back over here. And so now we're going to use a Helm chart to actually install the application, the AWS load balancer, now that we have our permissions. So we grab this first line here, we paste it on in, we hit enter. Oh, it says it doesn't know what Helm is. What are you talking about? Because we definitely installed it. So let's go back to this instructions here. Did I not copy and paste this? Maybe we didn't run the last line. So we'll hit enter here. Paste. Enter. Helm. Okay, there we go. We'll hit enter. Okay, so EKS has been added. So now we'll make sure that it's up to date, the repo, or whatever it wants there, repo update. And then the next thing is to actually install it. So we'll scroll past this stuff. It's saying different use cases. So we'll grab this one where it's actually installing it. We will right click paste, paste it in, hit enter, enter. Oh, stop. This is where I messed up. I put the wrong name in here. Okay, so I want to paste this in again like this. And this is where I ran this issue where I didn't have the right name. So I'm going to type in EKS example. So sorry about that. And I'm going to make sure this is spelled the same way. Capital E, it's case sensitive. I really should have just made it all lowercase for us. This looks fine. We'll hit paste. Cannot reuse a name that is still in use. Oh, no. No. This is a pain. Now I don't know because we messed it up. So maybe we can uninstall it. I don't know, like Helm uninstall. Helm uninstall. Uninstall release. So it is possible to do that. So I'm really hoping that we can uninstall whatever mess I made there. I should have just let it ran and then corrected it. I don't know if we need the second part here, but I'll just do this. Not found. Oh, I know it's going to the cube system CTL, so we'll do, dang it. It's not going to let me do it again, is it? Let's try this again. Hit enter. Cannot reuse a name that is still in use. Huh. Okay. So we'll do kubectl, get pods. We'll say cube system. You're never supposed to really touch cube system. That's the idea here. Yeah, cube system. You gotta put an N on this. So I don't see anything there that's important. I guess we'll have to look at the Helm chart and see what it's actually installing. So we'll type in, this is where the pain was. And this is actually where I messed it up and it became really hard. And I mean, like I made it even worse than before. So what we'll do, it's not all lost. It's just that we have to have a little bit of a detour now. Hopefully you don't have to do this and you don't make that mistake and you just carefully watch the video. But there is this thing here that's on Helm. So if I type this in, we go a Helm chart. It should be an artifact here. And so the idea is that if we open this, we'll see the contents of it, right? Which we learned in our Helm tutorial. So just going through here. I'm looking for the actual contents of the repo. What does it install? Templates. Installs a deployment, Ingress class. A bunch of things. Okay. But what are they called though? Because maybe you'll have like the default name in here in the values. Anyway, I'm going to be back. I'm going to try to figure this out, but I really wish I didn't do that. All right, so one other thing I might try here is by doing an, I think they say an upgrade. Was it? I'm just on Stack Overflow on the right-hand side. So use an upgrade and then do -i flag install the release if it doesn't exist. So what we'll do is we're going to copy this, and I'm just going to see if this works as a fix, right? If you installed it and you didn't make the mistake, then you are fine. But for me, whoops, we don't want to change the system, that there. But this is just kind of painful. So what we'll do is say EKS example here. Make sure that is right. And then we will go ahead and hit paste. Hit enter. Well, it's only going to work if I type it right, you know, so upgrade EKS example paste. Oh, nice. Okay. So we are super, super lucky that we're back in business here. So we'll go back over to our tutorial. And here we can verify whether it's working. So we'll go over here, paste it in. Okay, that looks fine. And then we'll go back over here. And that's all there is to that part. Next part is we need to do this tagging for our subnets, because if we don't do it, it doesn't know where to use the load balancer. So what we need to do is go back to EKS. If we go to details, it should show us the subnets here. So I'm going to open one. 2, and 3. And then we're going to have to add tags. So we'll give it a moment there. And so there, this one is. We'll checkbox it, go to tags. Told you, AWS is a lot of work. And so we need, I'm just going to open all 3 so I don't have to like figure this stuff out here. Manage tags. And okay, so the first one is this. So we grab this, paste it in, and this is going to be EKS example shared. Okay, I'm just going to copy that so I don't have to keep typing it. Shared. And we don't just need one tag, we need 2 tags. So we go here, and then they say you need this one as well. So we go here, and then the value here is 1. And then here, and then the value here is 1. And then we go here, and the value here is 1. And then we'll go save, and save. Okay. Oh, you know what? This is for private. It's supposed to be this one. For frick's sakes. No biggie. We'll just go and edit those. You can just tell, like, EKS just crushes my spirit. Okay, we'll just go back over here. Copy that. Why won't it paste? Oh, I can't actually remove it. Okay. So stupid that interface is. We'll go over to here, remove, and then 1, and hit save, and then go back to here, and then we'll add this here, and then remove that one, and hit save. Great, so those are all updated. So now we meet all of our requirements. So the next thing that we want to do is run the fun app that comes along here. So they have a sample app, and they are using Fargate, but we are not using Fargate, so we'll skip that, and we'll just go ahead and grab this. It's going to launch right into our node. And so we'll paste this in, and we'll hit enter. And it says that it's created the app. And if we want to see the contents of that file, like we can just paste the link up here. And if we just take this out, we can actually see what's here. So we have a service, Ingress, a deployment, and a namespace. Okay. And the game is 2048. You might have heard of this game before. And I think that's it, but I'll double check the instructions, see if there's anything additional here. No, but it will say, oh, I guess we download the file. We actually have to run it. Okay, so we will, oh, no, I think we did. Yeah, we ran it. Okay, the instructions are really weird how they just kind of have weird iterations there of the same thing. But if we go down below here and we do the get ingress, right? If we check our ingress, right? And if it has an address, that's how you always know if this stuff is working. So if we copy this and go anywhere up here, it says cannot be reached. Okay. But it has a port. So maybe what we'll do is we'll just double check to make sure everything's working correctly. I'm going to go over to EC2 here, because that's where our load balancers are. Because it created an ALB, right? And if I go to the load balancer here, I was just hoping that it worked. And so there is our load balancer. And I'm just going to make sure that it can be reached. It's also possible that the node is still starting and there's nothing wrong with it. And so this would normally have a target. This is an ALB, right? So this should, oh, we actually have to go to target groups to see. If we go to target groups here and select, it says healthy targets. It has targets. It says initial. Target registration is in progress. So it's still making, like, determining whether they're healthy. Okay, so now it's healthy. If we go back here and try it, does it work? There we go. Cool. And so we have a game. So join the two numbers to get started. Okay. Use your arrow keys. Oh, okay. Somebody at AWS had too much time on their hands. They're like, okay, what excuse can I have to make a game? They probably worked in like the Kubernetes department or EKS. But anyway, that's a fun game, and it's cool that we get to deploy that. So now we are all done. That was the hardest one. That was super hard. And so what we'll do is go over to EKS. and we'll go ahead and delete it. To confirm, type in my node group. Sorry, so just notice we're not deleting the cluster first. Go to EKS. Careful you don't click on ECS, otherwise you go somewhere weird. But we have to destroy the node group first. I know this because it will complain if we don't. So we call this my node group. That's what it's telling us to type in. And then once that is gone, then we can go ahead and delete the cluster. I can try this right now, but I don't know if it'll take it until the node group's gone. It hasn't finished attaching yet. So I'll be back here in a little bit. It takes a little bit of time to delete. All right, so now that our node group has been deleted, we can go ahead and delete our cluster. So we'll go to the top here, delete our cluster, and type in EKS example. Now, AWS is not like Azure and GCP where they have resource groups or projects. So you got to be really careful about what is lingering here. So just make sure, double check to make sure these things are deleted after it's deleted. We did create a load balancer, but it was created through Kubernetes. So I'm hoping that it just deletes itself. But if it doesn't, you should double check because a load balancer is going to cost you $15 a month if you forget to delete it. If you go to the left-hand side to EC2 and go to load balancers, you know, it should be deleting or something like that. And, you know, CloudFormation, some of these things were spun up there. So sometimes that's a good indicator if they're all getting torn down. So I'm going to go over here and just double check. And so we have the cluster role. The load balancer is here. Okay. And so if I go to resources, it's just a role. So there's no load balancer here. So I'm really hoping that it tears it down. So what I'll do is I guess I'll just have to make sure. I'll check back in here with you and just make sure that it's gone. Well, here, this one's gone. So let's go check the EC2 instance. I didn't think it would delete the cluster that fast because it takes so long to create clusters. If we go to our load balancer, it's still here. So tricky AWS. So we'll go ahead and delete it. And that should be that. I'm going to just double check. Is there any auto scaling groups? There shouldn't be. Nope, we're fine. So that was the only thing I was really worried about was that application load balancer, because that costs you $15 a month if you forget about it. But now you're A-OK, and we did the hardest one. So feel proud that you've tackled some of the hardest managed providers, and there you go.